At here for just a second. All right, and I'll be back.
All right.
All right, and it looks like we're live. Things are looking good on YouTube. They always look good on YouTube. Just check the Twitch. All right, and it looks like we're live. Things look good on Twitch. Okay. So, what's happening right now?
Just in time.
All right, and I'm back. Did you want to do an intro before I hold on, let me just turn off my audio here.
No, you should start.
Did
And we're live.
And we are live.
Yes.
This is Nightfall 0. You're listening to Distant Radio 3305. We are broadcasting from my ship, the Red Comet. Distant Worlds 2 is almost upon us. Here with me is Commander the Mykl.
Hello.
Yo, how are you doing?
I'm great. Sorry, I was drinking. Bad timing. Yeah, I'm pretty nervous, actually.
Why?
But I'm looking
Chill.
forward to the interview. Yeah, I'm
That's
always
all right.
nervous.
We will be presenting our guest shortly. But is your ship ready?
My ship isn't. No, it. I mean, I have everything stored I need for the expedition, but I need to log on and actually outfit it.
Is your body ready?
My body is ready. I've been born ready.
Great, great. Anyway, welcome everyone, whoever is listening or watching the video stream. And as we have previously announced during some of our shows, other DJs, during the news updates, this is our first official interview with one of the VIPs of this expedition. We have indeed a important guest. I'm going to do a brief introduction. I hope I don't get this wrong. But today we have Dr. Sarah Bosman, also known as Commander Shobah. She got her PhD in Cambridge for her work on distant quasars. She now works as a cosmologist at University College London in the aptly named First Light Group. She also studies distant galaxies. Did I get that right?
Yes, yes.
Great.
Good evening, /morning, /afternoon.
Yeah, whatever. We are all over the place. We are all over the galaxy, so we don't know what time is it. But thank you for joining tonight. We know that You're quite busy. There's been a lot of breakthroughs actually lately in astrophysics and cosmology.
Just
Of
give me a
course,
second. I need to
mostly.
turn down the music a little more. I was just told the music is a bit loud.
Oh, you don't want to cover my voice.
No, we don't. Let me just do this. I think it should be better now, guys.
All right.
Everybody.
Shout if
Let's
it's
just
still
wait
broken.
for some feedback.
All right. Well, yeah. As I was saying, there's been a lot of news. Of course, our dear doctor here knew all about it already because, of course, she hears everything beforehand, right?
Sometimes.
Right. Well, we are really pleased to have you here. There's going to be a few questions to just break the ice. You studied cosmology, of course, and quasars, but I mean, the question is, why did you get into that in the first place? Because it's quite niche, I would like to say, especially if you specialize in something as almost, well, I wouldn't say unknown, but quite far away as quasars. First of all, would you like to briefly explain what a quasar is for whoever doesn't know, like me?
Yeah, sure. So a quasar is what happens when a supermassive black hole, like Sag, or bigger or smaller, whatever. Most galaxies have one. And when they start to eat from whatever is falling onto them, be it a star or a gas cloud or whatever, they light up really, really bright. So it's actually the most efficient energy production mechanism known in the entire universe. Destruction of matter by black holes turns mass into energy really efficiently. So they're ultra bright. We can see them really far away. The brightest quasars are emitting about as much as 600 trillion suns at the same time and continuously. So
Great.
super bright things.
Well, that's quite amazing, to be fair. I don't think in Elite we can actually see any quasars in the distance. We can see the Andromeda Galaxy, but I think that's the farthest thing we can currently see. But maybe you can prove me wrong.
Has that actually been checked? Because I mean, most quasars to the naked eye would just look like a star because they're so far away.
Right. Well, to be fair, I'm not sure if they were, supposed to be there. I'm not sure if Frontier actually thought about quasars.
I'll check. That's one thing I can check.
Right.
I will look for the brightest quasars outside the galaxy.
Would you mind if I step in for just a second? Because then I have a question that relates to this then, because Chankk Satome, I'm kind of the background here, but I'm streaming the video here that you're maybe watching on Twitch if you're not listening on the radio. When you talk about the energy production and the numbers that you've just thrown out, like, for a kind of visual reference or maybe comparison, how would that relate to, say, our O-class or neutron stars that we can experience in the game?
So, the Milky Way is about 400, 800 billion stars. So all of them together, that's only about 1,000th of how much a quasar would be. That's all the stars together. So they are 1,000 times brighter than whole galaxies.
So what the comparison the comparison might be similar to looking at a flashlight from, 100 yards away versus looking at the sun in midday.
Or even more than that, yeah.
All right.
Compared to a star, like you wouldn't even be able to see it.
I just wanted to. I wanted to give that perspective for people.
Yeah, it's not. I think it's hard to even picture it, because I mean I don't think the human mind is wired to even imagine such things. We don't actually need to imagine such things to survive in against lions, which we were, that's our background. That's all our instincts are for. So imagining something that big and that bright compared to our everyday life is
I mean, if Sagae was currently a quasar, we would see it during the day all the time. It would be unbearably bright.
We would also be dead, though, right?
There are some theories, yes. If the black hole flares up, all the life in the galaxy will basically be sterilized.
Yeah, I mean,
from all the X-rays and UV. Yeah.
I guess you can see it for a few milliseconds, then you're dead.
But if you're on the other side of a planet, you're going to be fine because you're shielded by the planet. So it's not that bad.
For a bit.
No, it doesn't destroy the planet. It's still light, just so much fucking light.
Could life develop under those circumstances at all?
It's been suggested that no. So it could serve as a sort of reboot. That every time the black hole turns on, if it reaches those lights, it will kind of sterilize everything again.
So, oh wow, so really even not just like our understanding of carbon-based life, but even going on into like the hypotheticals of silicon-based life forms and other things. What you're suggesting is there's literally no potential at all once you've reached a quasar.
Well, you can get creative with it, right? Like some of the craters on the moon never see sunlight. So if you're really well shielded from all light, like inside the planet, under much rock, then maybe you can survive. But just being exposed to the sky would be deadly.
Yeah, that doesn't sound fun. So it's about quasars to I don't think we can stop them from happening, but hopefully they happened far away a long time ago.
Well, Sagae almost flared up. If you were following the news a few years ago, there was a gas cloud heading straight for Sagae and about to fall into it and like light it up just a bit. Then we would have seen it. Then it missed.
Oh,
well,
we're all very disappointed.
Wasn't that how? Wasn't that the impetus behind the building of the? I think just maybe this last year, there was actually a what they did is they took a sequence of like 20 or 30 years worth of staring at the core of the galaxy and turned that into a time-lapse image that showed stars flinging and spinning all around really, really quickly to basically in a way prove that yes, this supermassive black hole exists, and
that's the best proof.
That original cloud report of the light flare-up was the impetus for releasing that information to the public to make astronomy exciting again.
No, not really. They had a time lapse before they noticed the cloud. I'm afraid they've made news when they noticed the cloud.
Well. Yeah, well, look, I have here another question, which is much more basic. Now, we got off on a tangent talking about quasars and complicated stuff, but I had here my very neat list of questions. Okay, go from first to the following, and of course, as expected, we derailed almost immediately. So now I'm trying to get things back on track, so we don't go too deep into science yet. We will, but not now. One of the most basic questions that we've been receiving is what's the difference between a cosmologist, an astrophysicist, an astronomer, I think someone earlier in FleetCom says cosmetologist. I don't think that's something that you do, but there's been some confusion about mainly between cosmology and astrophysics. Can you clarify that?
Sure, it's quite simple. So astronomy is a very general term, like anyone can be an astronomer. All it takes is looking at the sky and in some way recording what you see.
Easy.
So we've had that for amateur astronomers are a really big community here in the UK. They have their own telescopes, they follow up supernovae when they appear, they're actually really active. So even an amateur can be an astronomer. It's a very easy hobby. I was into astronomy long before I was an astrophysicist.
Right. So then you became an astrophysicist, not a cosmologist?
There's a bit of overlap, but it's quite an easy difference. So it's like the same difference as a sociologist versus a historian, right? So the sociologist studies society and what happens in society and how it works and blah, blah, blah. But the historian specifically traces and digs around for what happened in the past and how we got to the state we're at today. And of course, you need to know a lot about society to be a historian. You have to know how economics works and all sorts of things. And it's really the same with astrophysics and cosmology. So an astrophysicist will know the details of how a star works, or a galaxy, or whatever physical processes make them work. But the cosmologist looks at how they changed with time, like the different phases we had in the past, how the galaxies used to be different when they first appeared, what types of stars we used to have, and so on. So it's really history.
You still need to be like a bit of an astrophysicist to be a cosmologist, because you need some basics of how things actually work, right?
Yeah, you do. Well, more or less, you can specialize, but
right. So you're focusing on what happened in the far past, I guess, because if you study quasars, which are very far away, which means they're very long ago, you're trying to figure out how we got here, basically.
Yeah, pretty much. I want to figure out how galaxies like the Milky Way came to look like this. Were they different in the past? And where they came from.
Okay. Well, that certainly clarifies things. Now we have a clear idea of what's the difference. Of course, cosmetologist has nothing to do about that. Because some people were saying, oh, is it about, putting wigs on ships, makeup on ships?
It's important to look good in space. That's why I really want a clipper that I don't have yet.
Well, it's not great for this expedition. You have an asp. It's all right. You will get a clipper eventually. Just grind some.
Yeah, yes, it's fine. It's great, actually.
Yeah. Also, I mean,
I painted it in stupid colors.
Of course, but okay. I just wanted to add, guys. We are monitoring the chats both on Twitch, YouTube, and we're taking questions.
We are watching everything. I've got Twitch and YouTube covered, as well as people in the instance. And I think Mykl and you are covering Discords and other things.
Yeah, if you are listening to this and you have questions live for our doctor, you can just head to the astronomy discussion channel and post your questions there. We will take them; they will be answered live. So feel free to ask. In the meantime, we have some questions saved up. One of the speaking to you as an actual cosmologist. We know that you lived and studied and got your PhD in Cambridge, and there's been some rumors that that's the city where the late Professor Stephen Hawking lived and worked. Did you have a chance to meet him? Because there's been some rumors about that. People saying that.
Rumors.
Well.
Yeah, I guess so.
I mean, we may have spread them, but there's been.
Yeah.
I mean.
Mothership is under my control.
It's still rumors.
Standing by for orders.
Spread by me, but can you confirm that?
Yeah, I did meet Stephen Hawking a few times.
Great.
So he used to work in the maths department. I was working physically in the cosmology department, and for some reason they're in separate places. It was Cambridge is weird. But he had a meeting of his mathsy cosmology group every Monday, and I used to go to that, and he used to go to that.
So you actually, physically met him?
Yeah, I mean, he was with us quite often on the Monday meetings.
Huh.
He would order food for the rest of us, and it would all arrive in the corner, usually Indian, from his personal funds, because he's really rich.
So you heard here first, Distant Radio 3305, Stephen Hawking liked Indian food.
Well, he ordered it for us. He had to eat separately because obviously he couldn't eat himself.
Yeah, no, of course, but did he eat the same stuff?
I'm not sure. He was always being fed by his helpers, actually.
Well, that's actually, I mean, we all know that he was in sad condition. Is a bit.
Hawking was a tandoori. Hawking was a tandoori chicken man. That gets respect from me. So.
Well, I haven't done any research on it. I'm not sure, but can you? I mean, of course, he was a great scientist. He contributed a lot. I believe that there's a few mods. I think the voice packs in Elite actually has some quotes from Hawking. Can you tell us what kind of person he was? Because we know him from, but you had the privilege to actually see him
Oh.
as he was with his peers and students. Well, how was he with them?
I'm not sure I knew him as a person. I'm not sure he knew me. That's for sure. He was way too
Well,
important.
you
for
saw
that,
each
but-
other in person. That counts.
In the meetings, he used to sit at the back, and we always had a speaker giving us a talk during lunch. You know, it's a show with food.
Right.
And he used to spend the entire duration of the talk writing a question letter by letter, and it took him the entire duration, just like picking letter by letter what he was trying to write. Then he would play it at the end. That's about as fast as conversation could be with him. I guess I
Right.
only knew him towards the end of his life. It was hard for him.
Yeah. Still, he managed to. I mean, he continued to fight until the very end. And
I will say, commenting on Hawking, is even when his taking time was not just, it didn't seem like it was just an effect of his disability. It was that he was very thoughtful. If you actually listen to his questions to other people, there's a sense of like Confucianism in them of what is the actual deeper meaning, like not just why does this happen? How do you know that? There's something deeper in a sense of understanding the universe in so much of what he did.
Maybe in his popular work, I'd say his questions, science-wise, were pretty normal. I mean,
When you say normal, I think you
he was a
mean.
great
Well,
scientist.
I mean, normal.
You-
normal
you-
in context.
I
You
think
say
mean
normal,
scientific-
but you're talking to a drunk redneck and a German hillbilly. So, like,
Yeah, of course.
we're totally lost on this stuff, but it's things that we couldn't even begin to think of even making into a question. Like, how does that, I mean, obviously because this is a part of who you are and what you do, how do you get to that sense of thinking about things, if that's even an answerable question?
I'm not entirely sure what you mean.
Well, I think let me try and rephrase that question. I think what he means is that for someone who is outside of the field and can't even know where to start to learn these things, of course, if you jump to the most esoteric concepts, you would have a hard time understanding them. I assume there is a process. You start learning basics physics.
There's a
Then
lot
you-
of practice involved.
You step up, and then your mind kind of gets into the mindset of gathering, of accepting more knowledge, and then through that knowledge, it opens up even more. It becomes some sort of second nature in the end. That's how I assume it works. I don't know, but how was it for you? Did you start at a young age? Well, you're still young. You're 26, I believe. So, I mean, when you started, were you already able to understand all of this? I guess not.
No, obviously not. There's
had
a
to-
lot of practice, years and years of practice.
It's not just
reading.
studying. It's about training your mind to think in a certain way.
Yeah, to some extent. There's a lot of learning facts and there's a lot of maths.
Maths.
Yeah, there's a lot of maths. Way more maths than you expect, and a lot
Yeah,
more
that's-
computer science than you expect.
That's probably where I failed. Maths. So, yeah, that's why I'm
Well,
not a technologist.
Because that's one thing. Cosmologists like Stephen Hawking were excellent at explaining these difficult concepts to the public. His public books are absolutely amazing. I read them when I was a kid. They blew my mind. It was so well explained. But the reality is, when you work on it day to day, it's 99% maths and 1% knowing what the maths mean. And there are some concepts you almost cannot explain without maths. You need so many steps in between to get the core of what it means and convey it. I think conveying what you work on is a huge skill.
Yeah, I agree that if he published for public a book full of equations, I don't think people would have understood much.
Well, he did, right? All his work is available
did, I
online,
may have
and
missed
you
it.
can't understand it. Even to me, it's extremely specific stuff. I'd have to research.
Of course.
I still want to read that.
Yeah, it's fun.
At that point, he's basically studying for an exam. So people read but
And it's fun. It's a fun read if you know what it's about.
I'm sure. Sorry, can I take this question because we have Kazakh F. I think that's the name. Has a question about quasars. He's asking, what's the smallest possible quasar that could be made? For example, would a microscopic black hole generate a quasar?
Technically, you're getting into technicalities of what you call a quasar then, because quasars have like subtypes. So a quasar is called like that. It comes from quasi-stellar radio source, because originally there were things emitting radio waves. It's one of the types of lights that you get when a supermassive black hole feeds. Is a lot of radio emission. But some of them don't. We discovered that sometimes under some conditions we don't get radio, we get all the rest. You could get black holes lighting up, even though they wouldn't technically be quasars. They would be QSOs or some other thing. But any black hole can light up. Even the microscopic ones. Although the microscopic ones don't live very long, so they only live less than a second. So you have to create it, feed it a bit, light it up, then it will evaporate.
You could have a quasar that lasts less than a second.
Well, you have to get it to feed in that second, technically. But this is really getting technical.
Right. Into numbers.
Yeah, there are more questions.
What you really mean by a quasar, right? It wouldn't be bright if it was that small. It'd be
There is indeed a follow-up question. Still here on the astronomy channel from Shaggy Dog. He's asking if quasars are just like galactic-sized versions of the jet cones we see in Elite. I believe you have seen a neutron star, also in Elite already.
I saw one by accident. I almost peed myself.
Yeah, that's what happens when you start by accident.
Yeah, that's what happened to me when I ran into my first black hole.
It was terrifying.
Yeah, that's supposed to be terrifying. It's all right. Anyway, Shaggy Dog is asking if quasars are basically galactic-sized versions of these jet cones being ejected from white dwarfs and neutron stars. He's also asking if you can explain the difference between pulsars and magnetars and other stellar remnants. Why we're getting hard stuff here, guys. Okay, let me clarify this. This is the introductory interview with Dr. Sarah Bosman. She is coming with us in the expedition from start to finish until she crashes into a star, to be fair, because that may very well happen.
They're no multi-crew.
Fair. I'm sure that a lot of people would like to have you on board.
Yeah.
But she will be with us, and she will be broadcasting live from my ship, because I claim exclusivity on her broadcast until we get to Mykl Point and back. So we will have various interviews. In the meantime, we will be gathering questions. So don't. If you have technical questions, don't worry. They will all be asked.
Oh, don't worry. I really like questions.
Exactly. Also, she has to practice answering questions for real conventions, right? Real talks. But
this is a real talk.
It is.
Anyway, sorry, I digress. So the question is that one: are those quasars versions of the jet cones?
There's a few very important differences. So the difference is the quasars can have jets. Very often they do. They don't usually rotate, like the neutron star I saw in Elite was rotating. It was a pulsar. Black holes don't precess in that way. The jets are kind of always in the same place, and that's the axis around which the black hole is spinning, like a top. And then around it, perpendicular to the jets, you can have a very big, what we call an accretion disk, which can be quite flat or quite puffy, so like kind of like a big torus of dust and superheated material that would be way too bright to look at. So you have this disk around it, which is where the feeding is coming from. The feeding is coming sideways, and the jets are going perpendicularly.
All right. All right. So, sorry, go
I've
ahead.
got another follow-up question on that. While we are at jet cones, the question is how accurate the concept of harnessing the power of a pulsar or white dwarf to increase the range of an interstellar warp drive. So, how accurate are jet cone boosts, to be short?
That depends on the law of frame shift drives. I don't know how they're supposed to work. Maybe someone knows. I haven't read that.
Well, I'm not sure myself. I'm not sure if there is a science of elite somewhere, like the science of Star Trek that was published years ago.
I mean, is it official? Is it canon how frame shift drives are supposed to work? Because under some circumstances you could charge them if it was like an ion drive or powered by negative mass or whatever. You could make it work in a sci-fi sense, I'm sure. But obviously frame shift drives don't exist in real life, so it can't be true. Right?
Not yet.
You can't charge them if they don't exist.
Right.
Yeah,
Sorry.
sure.
Just to conclude the question from Shaky Dog before we move to the next one. Just very briefly, the difference between pulsars and magnetars.
In real life, with our current observations, we couldn't really be able to tell if something was a pulsar or a magnetar. Magnetars are theorized to be like pulsars, except with much stronger magnetic fields. So they would produce different types of beams. Maybe more X-rays and more gamma rays, much more deadly stuff. Deadly beams.
Have they been observed?
We've observed really compact objects, so neutron stars. But then what flavor of neutron stars? It's hard to tell with current observations. We've seen neutron stars.
Right.
And we've seen pulsars, because sometimes the beams point at us and we see them blink.
Do you think that the upcoming James Webb Telescope would help to clarify those things?
This one in particular, maybe not. It will help clarify many other things.
Okay. All right. All right. Well, you know, you've been in Elite only for what, a couple of weeks now? But did you have the chance to explore a bit? Because I guess that would be what you would like to do the most. I don't think you would grind mining or stuff like that.
No, that's the first thing I wanted to do when I started Elite. I wanted to get out of the bubble and scan stuff and discover them for the first time.
Well, that's what you're going to do for months to come. So it's really good that you like that. What did you find of particular interest? What's the most interesting thing you found so far? Again, you haven't been that far, but did you encounter anything that made you go, oh, that's cool, they got it right, or oh, that's horrible, they got it so wrong, it hurts my eyes?
The most exciting thing I discovered was the first time that my D-scanner had more bodies discovered than the system map, and I was like, wow, 2 of them are missing. I can scan them, I can land on them. They were just ice bodies. But I was very, very excited to land on them. And very low skilled. And then they had my name on them. So that was very, very exciting.
Okay. Yeah, well, that happens due to recent changes in the scan system. But
oh, I found 2 ocean worlds spinning around each other really close. That was pretty cool. It made me wonder if they could actually form that way, or if the water would just pick one and not the other. I'm not sure.
So I guess that this part of the exploration, jumping to a system and trying, the surprise of not knowing what's in the system is what you're looking forward to, or is there anything specific that you're planning to go out of your way to find during this expedition?
I really want to see Sage Star.
Well, that's where we're going, so
that's a good start. I want to see the variety of all the variety of stars that I haven't seen yet. I think there's a few
I'm afraid of going to Sage Star because the first black hole I ran into really, really scared my pants off.
Not surprised. They should be scary.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I haven't been that far myself, but I did encounter some random black holes. I wasn't even looking behind, so it was a bit scary first time. But what I've heard is that they're not that lethal, at least compared to white dwarfs or pulsars. There are actually ways, if your ship is properly fitted, you can even get quite close. even bump on their exclusion zone without being killed. So obviously, that wouldn't
That's not
happen.
realistic.
Yeah, well,
No,
I was actually about to say most, because if you've been around, you've flown enough, you know that certain stars have certain generic, but specific stars have very standard things to them. White dwarfs, all doesn't matter their size or their mass or anything about them. They all have the same exclusion zone. I don't remember what it is for white dwarfs, but I know neutron stars, as anybody else who knows my name knows that I know neutron stars in the game. And even though I love them, I can't also not help but think these are wrong every time I look at them. But they have also got, like, neutron stars always have an exclusion zone of 0.13 light years. Black holes always have a collision plane zone of 24 kilometers that you can't get closer to. There are only 2 exceptions to that rule, and they are the Great Annihilator and Sagittarius A, because the black hole itself is like 60 light years or 60 light seconds across. It's it is so absolutely immense that those 2 black holes, if you try to automatically crash into them and let your computer take control and be like, "Oh, I'm safe because it's a black hole," you will just collide with it and you will die.
Right. So
They are Sagittarius A and the Great Annihilator are literally so immense that when you pop in, you are already inside the exclusion zone of the black hole, basically.
Oh wow.
Oh, I don't want to go there. I'm gonna skip that waypoint, I think.
No, it's worth going to, but basically what you have to do is jump there, go down to 0 throttle, and then once you pop in, basically turn away from it and start flying away, and then turn around to look at it again.
That's what I did with my first neutron star.
It's
That's good. Yeah, that's good. That is actually good.
that's a little tip for anybody who hasn't been out there yet. I've been there a couple
Neutron stars don't
times.
scare me,
Yeah,
but
I mean,
white dwarfs do.
Sarah, what will you do when you actually see a black hole for the first time? Do you actually plan to slam into it, or
I want to see how it bends light behind it. I want to test the light bending physics.
test?
That's one thing. I think they did
Hiring
a
a
really
laser
good.
around
I think they did a really good job with the light distortion on black holes, white dwarfs, all of your non-sequence stars. The light distortion. I think they did a good job with it. Despite my fascination and love of neutrons in the game, of course they're not accurate because they actually have a cone that shoots out of them rather than shooting out a big spiral disk, which should be an accretion disk, like has been said. But I mean, they're still beautiful, and I still love them. You know, I've got almost 5,000 of them discovered myself.
Oh wow.
That's
Not bad.
that's pretty much my thing in the game. Honestly, that's what my name is known for. But
That's pretty cool.
even with white dwarfs and neutrons, when you get close enough to their core, even they have the distortion effects because of their massive gravity. You know, they are still emulating that same. They are still emulating the gravity, but it's not as visible as with black holes, which are basically dialing it up to 11. And you know, you can be on the backside of a black hole, facing away from it with the rest of the galaxy behind it, and see the galaxy in front of you because it's warping light from the galaxy around back into your view
nice.
as it
That's
pulls
how
it back
should
into
be.
as it pulls it back as that light passes you from behind and then gets pulled back into the black hole itself.
So, I mean, we have clarified that black holes in Elite are not exactly as we expect real black holes to be. So, just as an idea, what could Frontier do to make black holes a little bit more realistic while not completely fuck you instantly as soon as you see them? Like, what would you think would be a cool mechanic? I mean, I know that you're obviously been playing for 2 weeks, so you're probably not familiar with everything that's in Elite yet. But you know, as
As for black holes in Elite, there's two things I'd like to see. I think, first, dying by black hole should be really scary and fun. Like,
scary and fun.
it should be scary and fun. I'm not.
Yeah.
So I've heard that you die of overheating if you get too close to a black hole. Now, I don't think that's realistic. I think if it's a naked black hole, how we call them, it's not emitting any light, you would die by being compressed before you die of heat. So you would spaghettify, basically, if you get too close. It would be strain on your ship. It would compress it. It would be terrifying. You know, it should be like a completely unique death. I would love to see that.
You know, this term spaghettified, of course, is very famous, but I was wondering if you are the person being spaghettified, would you, I mean, you would probably die a horrible death, but before that happens, would you actually see yourself being stretched or not? Because your entire brain is being stretched as well. So technically...
No, you die pretty quickly. I mean...
so you wouldn't pose yourself that question when it's at...
Say you're going down towards the black hole with your legs first, right? Your legs would be ripped off. Then you die of the blood loss. I'm sorry. It's grim.
Okay.
Your body would be torn, like if someone was pulling on it really hard.
So it wouldn't happen in that much detail as,
Even if the
for
black
example,
hole-
Neil deGrasse Tyson described it.
He was doing the like not gory version.
Well,
It would be a lot more blood. Your body cannot take that.
it's worse than that, though, isn't it? Because it's not even like you're not talking about limbs that you're literally being torn at a molecular level by varying degrees based on your own personal gravity in relationship to the gravity of the black hole. And
Well,
it
so
would be
there would
even
be a
it would be
breaking point.
it would be even more horrific, wouldn't it? As basically
I'm not sure.
all of your
I think there would be like a breaking point. Like if you were being pulled a lot more from one part of your body than the other, I think the more brittle part of you, like bones, would give out way before molecules do. Because molecular bonds are really strong, right?
oh yeah,
So
yeah.
I think the
I'm
fragile
pretty sure that any person undergoing that would have been dead long before that to begin with, so there wouldn't be any awareness to know what was happening.
But this is what I read. If someone actually manages to do that before they die horribly, since time also gets compressed or stretched or somehow distorted due to extreme gravity, that person would be able to see the entire future in front of his eyes, right? Theoretically.
That's a very specific theory that you're talking about.
I know, it's something I read. It makes me feel smart, so
There's a specific theory that says specifically a rotating supermassive black hole, what we call a Kerr black hole. If you fall into there, there is a zone called the ergosphere, and in the ergosphere, time goes in a loop, whatever that means. It's not like it's a tested theory, but general relativity does predict it's possible.
time travel confirmed.
Oh my gosh.
Literally
I'm
seeing
just
your
thinking
life
of,
flash
that's
before your
anime.
eyes.
Guys, distant radio 3305. Time travel is possible.
Yes.
Theoretically, it's
watch
not a thing that's
Science Gate
theoretically
and you'll
possible.
know.
Well, no. Hey, time travel has been possible for almost a century. We already know that. It's just that you can you can only go forward. You can't go the other way.
Yeah, no, we know. I mean, come on, we know that. I was, something a real time travel. No, for real.
Like
Go to the end
past,
of the universe.
Well, it's
changing-
not
changing the
possible
past.
because even if you loop to the past, you can't get out of a black hole. So, I mean, you've gone back in the past, but you can't get out. You're still inside.
That's a.
Well,
let's. Yeah, I'm just thinking about my favorite anime because that's exactly about that theory of time travel with black holes and stuff. Have you watched Steins Gate?
Yes, I love
Yes.
Chankk. I have a figurine of Christina in the next room.
Oh my goodness! I'm the one living in Japan, and I'm surrounded by weebs. What what is happening?
Guys, this is not an interview about anime. We will do that eventually, but I'm just checking if we have any more questions. But one last question to you, as Dr. Bosman. We've asked you what did you find of interest in Elite, but what is the favorite thing that you have discovered in real life? Something that you worked on and that it's you're proud of being the person of having contributed the most.
Ooh, hard question. Quasars. I was part of 2 major discoveries that showed that quasars actually were different in the past. So that's one thing I've worked on a lot, is that basically for the longest time in the universe, you could take a black hole, supermassive black hole of some given mass, you give it some amount of stuff to eat, it will always do the same thing. Slight variations, but basically, in terms of what kind of light it emits when you feed it, it's pretty much always the same. They're all very similar to each other, almost like copy-paste. But then when we push this to the very start of the universe, the sort of the first 10% of the universe's life, they do start to do something different. So those black holes, we were able to show, they start to have some differences compared to what came later.
Well,
in the way they feed.
That actually brings up a question I have then. So, what are the estimates? Sorry, I have to type this in real quick. The estimate age of the universe versus the estimate age of our particular galaxy in it.
Yeah.
How can we make those comparisons based on what we view of other galaxies outside?
Well, we estimate them by different ways, right? So the age of the universe, roughly speaking, we can get a limit by seeing how fast galaxies move from each other. Because all galaxies are moving away from each other. So all in the past, they all used to be closer to their neighbor, and then even before that, they were even closer to their neighbor, and so on and so forth. If you wind back about 13.7 billion years ago, they would all have been in one place, like all of them, which we give the limit of the Big Bang, saying they all came from the same place. And we can call that the Big Bang, and then we can measure it carefully by measuring how fast galaxies are moving from each other, as well as the cosmic microwave background and that kind of thing. The age of our galaxy specifically, we know a lot of from what we call galactic archaeology. So that's looking inside the Milky Way for groups of stars and seeing when they were formed or when they joined our Milky Way. And for example, we know that the disk of the Milky Way was there before the spiral arms that we see were. So the disk itself was already in that orientation about 1 billion years before the spiral arms. We also know that the last time we had a major collision, so when a major galaxy joined us, all those stars came at the same time, more or less, kind of in between those two events, between the disks and the arms, and so on. And then we can look for the oldest stars in the galaxy, trace back when certain features kind of joined, all the way to very recent events, like the Sagittarius Stream was a recent small galaxy that got eaten up by the Milky Way. And the Magellanic Clouds, of course, haven't been eaten yet, but they will be.
Well, and of course, I think what's the estimates? 7 billion years. Us, Milky Way, and Andromeda will collide and then become a new galaxy of itself, of its own kind at that point.
Yeah, it does look like Andromeda is heading towards us and should collide with us in about 7-ish billion years. People are calling the merger of two Milkdromeda.
Yeah,
Dr.
Nagi is asking
Andromeda. It's a horrible
why.
name.
I'm not a fan either.
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Nagi is asking why they are moving towards each other if when you said the galaxies are moving away from each other.
Yeah,
Chaos.
on average.
Chaos.
Yeah.
On average.
Basically,
On
they're
average,
planets.
yes.
They were born close to each other, so sometimes galaxies are born close enough to attract. It's just when they get far, they start to basically repel each other under expansion. So for example, the next closest thing, which is the Virgo cluster, the next sort of major group of galaxies beyond Andromeda that is not dwarf galaxies, we are moving away from that at a very high speed. And beyond that, pretty much everything. It's just that the local group of us, our dwarf satellites, and Andromeda were born as a group, and eventually they will all attract each other.
It's a huge galaxy, but I'm not sure we'll be there to witness it as a human race.
Maybe heat death will have occurred until then.
No.
No. Heat death is. I mean,
That is way further away.
Even a drunk redneck can tell you that the scales we're talking about is our galaxy in relation to human lifetimes is like where I'm at, you know. I'm not even middle-aged, you know. So it's a post-teenager. Our galaxy's a millennial. The Milky Way is a millennial.
Kinda. So our Milky Way has used about 1/3 of all the resources it has to make new stars. So it's 1/3 in. And it's still making, I think, about a star a year on average. About one new star every year. So
that's impressive. That is.
Well, they're usually born in groups, right? So it's not like one every year on schedule. It's like little groups of them once in a while.
So that kind of links to what our scientists are doing in distant worlds too. What you mentioned about galactic archaeology, you study the stars and how they are positioned, where they are mostly concentrated. We know that's how the Milky Way in elite is. We have some regions of space that have more new stars, some regions that have older stars, and all of that. Do you think it would be feasible if we had a reasonably complete map of how the various stars are distributed to more or less design a model to check if the elite Milky Way is realistic in that sense?
Oh yeah, for sure. I think that's already in elite. I think when in regions where you find lots of red dwarfs, for instance, they seem to be more concentrated in some parts than others. So I found a spot once that had a lot more red dwarfs than some other spot. They do seem to follow. And the more red dwarfs as a fraction a place has, the older it will be on average. Because all the young stars have died, basically.
So what our scientists are doing will actually help, because I know that you are interested and you will take part, as said, in this expedition. And our science division will be gathering all these sort of information. They have a spreadsheet, they have a system. It's quite detailed. I don't know much myself yet. But there's a lot of people willing to help to map this. So maybe once you have the data, if you have time, you may have a look at it and see if it matches. If actually I would advise to double check with them, because if there's anything specific that you need to know to figure this out, I'm sure that they will be happy to.
If we go to Beagle Point, I don't think there's any way it will match, just because in real life, our own galaxy map IRL is really terrible, right? So the best mapping satellite out there is called Gaia. It only started about 2 years ago. And when it's done, it will have done less than 0.25% of our real life galaxy map, less than 0.25%. And that's state of the art, right? In real life, we don't have a galaxy map.
How
No,
long will
can't
it
you
take?
extrapolate? Can't you extrapolate a
So-
model even from that small sample?
Yeah, you can, but obviously when they made the Elite Galaxy map, they had to guess at a lot of stuff, especially because Gaia wasn't even going yet when they designed the map, so they had even less information. I'm sure they did their best to like find all these streams that are really visible from far away, or the names of the spiral arms. I'm sure they did their best, but we just don't know that much. I'm sure they had to fill in the blanks. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's how you make a galaxy map. At least I think a lot of the stars are in the correct place, which is super cool.
Yeah, of course they had to take some liberties.
Yeah, I was wondering if you could learn navigating with the stars from the Elite Galaxy.
Around the bubble, yeah, for sure. But that's the main problem in real life. We only see stars if they're close by or far away and bright. And it's the only way.
Okay.
It's a lot more hopeless than Elite.
Yeah, so distant worlds won't teach me that.
Sorry to interrupt. Are
Because-
we having some issues with the radio audio? I'm reading some. I don't know. I'm reading some listeners having trouble with sync. I'm not sure if I read it properly.
There are no issues on the video stream, but I don't know about
I
the
know.
radio itself. So
I don't read any.
hopefully everyone on the radio hopefully everybody on the video can hear us. If it's too low, just wave or say something. I can try to boost
Yeah,
it.
no. I just
Come to the distant radio Discord and tell us, because
I just don't want the 50 people currently listening on the radio to not hear it properly, because if there's anything wrong with the stream, please let us know immediately so we can fix, because we can't really hear ourselves until we actually have
well.
it and recheck it. So please jump on the either ping one of us or jump on the radio server. Anyway,
back to topic.
yeah, well, we have a lot
We've
of
been going
questions,
on
and I
for
think-
about an hour. I think we're pretty good.
I mean, I will say this again. We will have additional interviews with Dr. Bosman. She's coming with us on the expedition. I believe that she has the intention of also streaming herself. She has a YouTube channel. She will be streaming during her travels. Not sure about frequency. Do you have any plan about that?
At least once a week, probably more.
All right.
Depends how work goes.
Right. We will share the YouTube link later. But apart from that, Distant Radio will still host interviews, and so keep sending questions. We will answer them all. And speaking of questions, there is another one that is quite specific. It's about something called dark flow.
Oh,
Yeah, it's someone is asking what are your opinions about dark flow, but first we need to clarify what it is.
what's dark flow? Dark flow is to do with the Great Attractor, if some of you may have heard about that. It's a claimed observation that the galaxies in the universe, in addition to being expanding, they seem to be preferentially heading towards one side of the universe. Like there's a direction that they prefer, maybe. But I have to say the evidence for that is, to be polite, very weak.
To be polite, you don't have to be polite.
I was the one asking that question, to be honest.
Also, you don't have to be polite for sure.
No, absolutely not.
Yes, I think there's been two researchers that have claimed to see it. One of them was in quite blurry data, and then about 10 that tried to reproduce it, and it didn't really work. So sometimes in science, effects are very weak, and you can't see them reliably because they're basically might be just noise, right? It's like
Okay.
looking at a blurry image and trying to know what it is. And dark flow specifically, I think the evidence is pretty weak. But
So it's
there should
fringe
be
science.
specific difference. It's like, it's okay because their science is good. It's just if it's so touchy on exactly how you measure, at least we can say the evidence is strong.
Okay.
It's worth investigating, but it's not very clear.
So you guys basically spend some of your time at least trying to disprove each other, right?
Yeah, pretty much. That's all we do.
I
So,
thought that was the
well,
whole scientist's job, was to somebody says something and your entire job is to prove them wrong until you can't.
Pretty much. Yeah, I mean, science conventions are pretty much just nerd fights. Oh, you're wrong. If you do it this way, my galaxy doesn't do this. It's very.
Well, it must be.
It's very fun.
I think
Very
so.
fun to attend.
Yeah, according to you, falling into a black hole is fun. So I'm not sure I trust you. Considering fun. But,
Scientific disagreements are fun.
huh.
I think most people can make valid points, and it's quite fun to reconcile what everyone is doing on their own and try to see what's in common and what can be improved.
Well, to go back on the actual technology of Elite, you briefly mentioned the FSD. Of course, it's a system that, for gameplay reasons, it is required, but it allows our ships to go faster than light. I think, what's the upper limit? 2001 C or something like that?
There's a limit?
There is an upper
There is a
limit.
limit, yeah. If you fly in maximum speed supercruise, it caps out somewhere between 18 and 2,000 times the speed of light, I believe.
Oh, I had a question for you, elite experts, actually.
You don't get to ask questions. That's not
I get to
how
ask
it
questions.
works.
I found 2 stars in the galaxy map that were really close together. And when I started heading towards there, it said something like 30 days or whatever. Can you actually travel in supercruise between stars if you wait 30 days?
Why I was going?
I can answer that actually because I've done it. I found a. If you go out to the Eagle Nebula, you'll notice that there's a cluster of stars that are. Ooh, people are crashing fighters into the ground and exploding here. Well, that's 2 gone. Anyway, if you go out to the Eagle Nebula, you'll see that there's this bright cluster of stars. And I'm actually going to pull it up in the video stream here, since I'm streaming and I can do that. So if I go all the way out here, here's Eagle Nebula. And there's this bright cluster of all these really tightly packed stars. And I have actually surveyed all these systems at this point. There are some stars that are literally less than, like, I want to say they're under, 1/10 of a light year apart. They're really, really close. But the way the game emulates things and the way the game builds systems is that systems are all independent of each other. So even though I was able to fly from one star in a system to where the next system would be, the system does not actually spawn. The system is still separate. The hyper jump, and this is going to get into this is going to get into breaking in-game mode. We have to talk about the game mechanics at this point. But yeah, the way the game processes it is that each system is its own independent existence, and hyperjump is basically your loading screen to get from system to system. So even if you can physically fly there and spend the time to get there, it will not actually exist when you get there unless you jump to it and quote load the system.
Yeah, there are basically a lot of instances. That's the only way to do it.
Mykl right now is cringing. He's like, "Oh, you're breaking the in-game role playing." Oh
no, I'm cringing because I had
guys, we are still.
The answer is so disappointing.
We are still broadcasting from my ship, the Red Comet. I'm currently in Palani, like most people, waiting for departure, making sure that my paint work is fine and not at 99% like it usually is for some reason. So we are, of course, broadcasting live from there, and we will be doing that for the entirety of the trip. Remember that if you still have some time to fix your ship, if you still haven't. If you have questions about that, you can just ping one of our skilled mechanics in the fleet.
Yeah. Let me pull that up. The official report. Where? Oh, come on. Status fleet. Official report. 1 hour, or no, not 1 hour. Oh, 1 day, 22 hours left. You can still sign up literally until the last minute. If you are still building or working on a ship, you can join our Discord or talk to people in the forums, and they will help you with anything you need, help answer any questions you have. Also, for people who have been having issues and been saying things that will not be spoken of in open, don't fly in open. People know people know that Distant Worlds is a thing. People who want to get their jollies off on trying to interrupt and disrupt it will do so. But they can only do that in open. They don't have access to private groups, and they don't have access to your own solo if that's what you need to get. If that's what you need to use to get to somewhere.
And
those are the two safest ways to fly. If something does happen in player group, at least in the fleet, if it happens in the fleet comm group, it should be reported in private messages to one of our fleet comm administrators on the Discord, not publicly, not on forums. Send private messages to them. If you are destroyed or killed by someone, make recordings and log whoever was involved, and then send. And do not rebuy your ship. Do not respawn.
Exactly.
If you die, just log out of the game, quit the game, report it to someone in report to one of our administrators on the FleetCom Discord. Report it to Frontier Dev as a complaint ticket, including who was involved, what their names were, your ship name, and then just wait. Just be patient.
Don't forget to mention Distant Worlds.
Yeah, of course, mention that you're a part of Distant Worlds and that you were in the FleetCom private server. If you're not in the FleetCom private server, nobody can help you, really. Which is why we suggest flying in your own private groups or in solo, in case you can't be a part of the FleetCom group, private group at the moment. Cohen and others are working on getting everybody that they can into the group. And so, but don't make a public hubbub about it, because that's exactly what they want. They want attention. So
let's not give them any, and let's say that if you still have questions about your fitting, just ask one of our mechanics. But there's one thing that the mechanics can't do, and that is help you with space madness. For that, there's us. So make sure to tune in anytime you're flying so we can keep you sane. Maybe, I don't know, if Chankk is singing, I'm not sure that you will be kept sane.
I didn't. No, that was not. I didn't. That was Nagi. Nagi did that.
Look.
Wait, what?
I mean, it happens to everyone. I was actually suggesting one funny game to stream is one jump, one shot. And you plot a course for like 2,000 light years or 3,000 light years. every time you jump and you meet a non-scoopable star, you take a whiskey shot. Okay.
Oh my god.
And the first one to die because they're too drunk and they crash into the star loses the game.
Yeah, he loses because he's back in the bubble.
Exactly. So we need some stakes to make it fun.
Well, I fly neutrons, which means that literally only 1 out of every 6 stars is scoopable for me.
Well, that's your problem.
Yeah, but
Yeah, I mean, if you think that, it's your problem.
I might, 100
I
light
mean,
years might do me in.
the rule is you can't filter stars for scuba only.
All right.
Anyway,
Well, it does
yeah.
it does sound like we're kind of winding things down. We're bringing it to the end of the show. I do have
Really? Are we?
I have one last question. If we want to move out, if we want to move out of the science.
Yeah, we should. That was just a quick break in case.
There was one science-related general question. If you can squeeze that in.
No, yeah, no, go to the science question, and then I'll bring up my question.
Okay. Commander Selfish Pie from Scotland asks another question, and it is when it comes to scientific education and raising a world of scientific literacy, what do you think is the biggest barrier to overcome until we get to a point that we can consider the majority of the population scientifically literate?
Funding.
Sorry, again.
Funding.
Funding.
Money.
Funding is the major. Yeah.
Yeah.
Money is a major hurdle in education right now. In the UK, at least, there is a major funding issue of public schools.
Yeah.
They don't have the materials they need. The curricula are being redesigned all the time to inflate marks and try to hide how bad the situation really is. There is a huge lack of money in education in the UK.
Well, I can actually tell you as a teacher, that's not just a UK thing. That's a general education thing. Public education is often seen as basically the last budget list item at the end of the year, and that's just an unfortunate. That's just a really sad and unfortunate social thing that happens worldwide. Doesn't matter where you are, and until people recognize the importance of having well-educated young people who actually understand and know how things work, it's not likely to change just because of how human societies work. But we can still push for things, and we can still promote them. We can still give our own personal donations and try to help with those things. So
it's good that so much education is available to everyone on the internet nowadays, but that's only patching the holes in what's a much bigger problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, if we manage to avoid pseudoscience and stuff like that, because of course the internet also allows for that, and some people fall prey on those frauds. So that is also something that we need to take care of. But yeah, we've been going for more than an hour.
Well, then getting out of science and maybe going for a little lighter question, a little bit of a lighter tone, lighter note. This can actually go for you too, Nightfall, both of you together. Shobah, Nightfall. What inspired you, and what inspired you to join Elite Dangerous? What brought you here? Yeah, let's start with Nightfall, but I'm much more interested in Shobah's answer.
Yeah, no, of course. I thank you for the courtesy. I know that no one gives a shit about me. It's fine. No, it's fine. Look, it's
Don't
fine.
play that card.
Since you asked it, I'm going to bore you and answer first. Okay?
Yay!
There is, I joined years ago. I come from other space games. I played EVE Online for a lot of years, and I was just looking for a space sim. That's all there is to it. I was playing a bit of the X series, but I wanted something different that was more into actual piloting more than managing. So I didn't really have a reason to go for Elite itself. Of course, I knew Elite is a franchise. I just bought it, tried it, I liked it, and then I started buying peripherals. I got an Oculus Rift just for Elite, actually. And then I just got hooked to it. I just liked the idea of, flying a spaceship and be able to look around and look at space from from my perspective. I'm not a scientist, but I'm still fascinated by it. So it's nothing interesting. Um, about Shobah, well, why did you join it?
Well, I have a pretty tragic anecdote, actually. I met the devs last summer before I played the game.
You did?
Yeah, I did. So my best friend and I both studied in Cambridge, and she was dating a developer who works in the same sort of area that the Frontier devs do, and they all go to the pub together. And there's this pub that's really popular in Cambridge, where all the devs of the companies around there go. And I joined them there. They all seemed really nice.
Were you also dating one of them?
No.
And you should have. You may have gathered some intel.
I didn't. Yeah, I wasn't playing at the time, and I felt really bad. And then I came home and I told my boyfriend this, who plays Elite, and he was so jealous. Like, you met them, you didn't even ask them for insider info. What?
Jealous because you were hitting on one of them, or because?
No, because I met them.
Oh, right.
But they seemed really nice. Like they all going to the pub together, which is good for any company.
Do you remember the name? No.
But no, not really.
Because we will have Frontier developers coming with us. If we're lucky, we will have some interviews with them as well. But they will have something planned for the expedition, so
yes,
it will be fun.
Yeah.
Yes, they will, but they won't tell us, which is.
So anyway, to finish the answer, you joined Elite because you met them?
No, it was actually much later. I joined Elite a few weeks ago because my boyfriend got me the game for Christmas.
Right.
Oh, I love it, obviously. I'm ashamed I didn't come to it earlier, because flying around in a spaceship is what I would like to do in real life, if only I could.
Yes.
Work out a warp drive, which I
I feel
can't.
the same way.
Well, maybe one day.
And anybody else out there who's watching or listening right now and who's just like, she met devs and then she started playing the game. She's doing it all backwards. Don't worry. I too am frustrated at the fact that I cannot get a date with Will Flanagan. He is adorable.
But the thing is, before she was like, I met Stephen Hawking. Oh, you met Stephen Hawking. Cool. I also met the devs. What? You met the devs? It's amazing. Okay. I mean, perspective, guys. Okay? It's great.
Come on. Everybody, come on. Perspective. Shobah has met Stephen Hawking. I can't get a date with Will Flanagan. All right. Let's keep it in perspective here.
Right.
This was
so
great.
we're not getting any more questions in the astronomy channel. You still have a couple of minutes. If any of you has any last minute question before we wrap up.
Someone is typing. I'm thinking there
typing.
might be another question incoming.
And I do plan to
Wait a
stream and
second.
answer questions during the expedition, as well as write occasional articles.
Oh yes, actually, I wanted to mention that Dr.
No, it's not a question.
Bosman is going to write newsletter articles for the many of you that participated in the previous Distant Worlds expedition. There will be newsletters. I think they're managed by Dr. Kai, and there will be columns, articles written by Sarah here. I believe the main concept is to while you're exploring out there, if you find something interesting, you will write about comparing what you see in game to what we think should actually be in reality.
Yep.
So it's not about. It won't be exactly about the science project which our scientists are doing in game. It will be a separate part of the newsletter where there will be a bit more sciencey stuff, actual real science. I mean, I know that most of all the players are nerds, so that's. We hope that it will be interesting.
Oh yeah. You can talk to I consider him a friend. I don't know how he feels about me. He probably thinks I'm a weird drunk redneck, but that's what everybody thinks. But AW in FleetCom, he loves he loves orbital maths and he loves orbital mechanics, and he will talk to you all day about it and how they're emulated in the game. And he actually wrote a script of how to basically altitude and speed to orbit a planet, so you could basically put yourself in an orbit, then shut down all your modules and literally free fall in orbit around a planet. He wrote maths for that based on the in-game mechanics and everything, and I've used them myself to make videos, and so he
That's pretty cool.
yeah, and that's one thing that's actually done really that Frontier Dev did. You know, planets have gravity even when you're not on the planet. If you're just flying around it, it has gravity, and it will affect you. And that's something that a lot of people don't pay attention to or they miss. But it's there. It exists. And I think they've put a lot of details like that into the game that just make it more real in a way.
They sure did. Yeah. They sure did. And
a lot of things are very realistic.
That's why I believe there's a lot to talk about. So we will have Dr. Bosman again. We will plan a schedule for the upcoming interviews, working around her work schedule, of course. Well, you know, she has to do some real science sometimes, not just spaceship science. Sometimes, yes. So we will have her again. In the meantime, we will share her YouTube channel in case, so when she streams, you can follow. Sorry, Sarah, are you comfortable with us sharing your your personal website as well, so that
sure,
so that no one doubts that you are the real thing and you're just
no problem.
No, I'm just
saying. I don't think I'm
just
important enough for people to doubt.
No, I'm not saying that, but so that if anyone is interested in reading Sarah's papers, actual papers,
sure. My website's pretty crap. I mean.
Yeah,
wait, are your papers up there? Because I only saw your biography, but I would love to see your papers.
They're all linked from my terrible HTML website.
Yeah, no, I've seen it. There's I think they're in another tab of the website. There's a link to all the papers that she published. So
very cool, very cool.
So we will link it in the astronomy channel once we're done here, or if you want to what was the? You can say the address if you want for whoever is not in Discord at the moment.
Oh, it's just my name. It's sarahbosman.co.uk.
All right, so it's Sarah Bosman. That's SarahBosman for November. What was it?
Co.uk.
Okay.
.co.uk. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. We will write it down somewhere anyway. So feel free to visit that.
There's not much.
Well, don't sell yourself.
But I will be streaming on my YouTube channel at some point.
Of course you will. We're all waiting for that. But guys, just send us feedback about the interview if you would like something answered. Sorry. Or anything else that we can improve as a radio, because again, this is our first official interview. So
it's
if
number
it went
one.
Too far, too long, too short, if the structure was a bit hard to follow, any of those comments would really help us to organize ourselves so that we provide a better entertainment for you guys.
On that note, if we're gonna close it out, can I comment?
Yeah, of course.
All right. On that note, I guess we're closing it out here. The next interview will be happening next week at the same... No, not the same time. Where is it? Hold on. Let me pull it up here. Because I'm talking to a buddy of mine. Well, he's an old friend, and he's probably pissed off a lot of people, but I'll be talking to him because I'll be talking to him because I'm friends with him. But February 8th, February.
It's the interview with the Truth Sayer.
That's Truth Sayer. No, excuse me. Our interview next week. Oh no, I can't say that yet. Oh, I can't say that. I can't say that one yet because we haven't officially confirmed it in the group. Sorry. Oh.
Interview next week.
Oh. I got all excited, but no, the 18th interview is not.
Not public yet.
It's not public yet. It'll be public this weekend. At some point during the launch, it'll be announced.
We will.
I think it's gonna be Yannick. I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure next weekend will be Yannick on the 18th at 1900 in-game time. So it'll be 2 hours before this. Right now, basically.
Okay.
Okay. No, that is okay. No, the 18th I can say. It's the 25th I can't say. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
I'm sure no one understood anything. So
next interview will be the 18th, 1900 in-game time.
Yes.
With Commander Yannick, and that'll be me and Nagi talking to him. Yannick, right. If anybody doesn't know, is one of the leaders of the Christmas carrier convoy, and he's done a lot of other things in the game. It's the 25th interview that I can't talk about.
All right, glad we had sorted that out.
Great. If there's no more questions, we'll just leave with this. I thank you again, Sarah, for taking your time to be here.
No problem.
No, we all want to. Hey, we all want to thank you, and I think that many of us want to thank you and look forward to your blog posts or reports or whatever it is you are going to be doing throughout the expedition. You know, and of course, with everyone, you know, we hope you'll be around for the long haul. But if it can't be, and it can't be done, we understand that too. Real life comes first. Totally understandable.
Why do you have to end it in such a sad way?
Well, because I have to end it in a sad way because I was just a part of a year-long expedition that only saw about a quarter of the people even still playing the game at the very end of it.
Oh, poor thing you.
There's more than 9,000 sign-ups.
Yes.
But that's the thing.
I can't believe it. 9,000. Yeah, what's happening? It's going so fast.
Hey, Mykl.
Yes.
What does the scouter say about his count level? About his expedition count level?
You fucked it up, mate. That was so cringy. That was horrible. Please.
Sorry.
I mean, if you plan to do that, you need to make sure you don't fuck it up.
Okay.
Well, I'm drunk and it's 7 o'clock in the morning, so.
You're always drunk.
I am not always. I am not always drunk. I am always drinking, but I am not always drunk. Get it right.
Okay, before this degenerates any further and we just scare Sarah out of here forever, let's just close this up. Guys, thank you everyone for joining. We will have some music now.
First some ads.
Yeah, well,
of course,
and of course, on the video stream, I'll be closing out with a video and closing it off when you guys end. So.
Okay.
All right.
So
and
thank you for
people
tuning
don't
in,
hesitate
guys.
to send me questions. I will reply to all of them.
Yes, feel free to ask.
Indeed.
I will have many
thank
questions.
You guys again for tuning in. This has been Nightfall 0 with that Mykl and Chankk.
And of course, Sarah Bosman.
And of course, our
aka
guest,
Shobah.
our wonderful and gracious guest, for giving us her time.
Yes,
Indeed.
thanks.
This has been Distant Radio 3305.
Wow.
And have fun out there. Try not to die too quickly.
Yeah, take care in the black.
And we're off. Bye
Good
bye.
night.
Yes, and we're off.
Cool.
Ah.
I think it went
All right.
reasonably well.